This is
Colmena Fund.
Resist,
Persist,
and Reimagine.
a new era for African women's
Political power.
Welcome to Season 2 of Colmena Fund's podcast, Resist.
Persist, and Reimagine. A new era for African women's political power.
Today, we are thrilled to have Bina Maseno joining us from Kenya. She is the founder of Badili Africa, a Pan-African organization redefining leadership through the voices of grassroots women and youth. Reflecting on her run for office at age 22, Bina discusses navigating a male-dominated political landscape and the double marginalization young women face. In this episode, we explore the generational gap in African leadership, innovative engagement strategies like combining glam sessions with civic education, and the urgent fight against gender-based violence. Ultimately, Bina reminds us that the most powerful position any of us can hold
is the office of the citizen.
Let's dive in.
Hi, Bina.
Hi.
Welcome to Colmena Fund, Resist, Persist, and Reimagine podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for your time as well. I know it was more like a short notice, but we are happy and humbled to have you.
We are always ready to resist and persist. And what was the last one?
Reimagine.
Reimagine.
Born ready.
So we have to just show up.
I like that.
Yeah.
Bina Maseno is the founder and executive director of Badili Africa, a Pan-African women's rights organization working to redefine leadership and political participation by centering the voices and agency of grassroots, women, and young people. But I'll also open the floor to also share maybe a bit about yourself that I have left out.
Yeah, so my name is Bina Maseno, former political aspirant. I ran for political office when I was 22 years. I was on the ballot for the seat of Member of County Assembly. I don't like to say I lost. I like to say I didn't get enough votes. Yeah.
I like that.
So, so that experience shaped a lot of the work that I do currently. I've also been a journalist. I've worked for Kenyan television station as a reporter. And yeah, I am a mom as well.
Now, maybe if you could just take us a little bit down the memory lane of your journey. I read in your organization's website that you vied as a 22-year-old as a member of the county assembly office. How was that experience been, and what really impelled you to join the political race or to be involved in politics? Yes.
I think from the onset, I want to say that it's never easy running for political office. And I think in any country, and especially for a young person, and especially for a young woman, I always say that politics has a look, politics has a language, politics has a working style, politics has a campaigning style, and it is male, it's not female. So you are going to be criticized across every front. It's how you look, because you don't look masculine enough. So, you show up, you have your makeup. Oh, you're a slay queen. What are you doing in politics? Oh, you're not married. Oh, the violence that is also used to silence you. Ageism. Oh, you're too young, Oh, do you want to run for the women rep seat? Oh, we have affirmative seats for women. Why don't you run for that particular seat? It is you trying to fit in a political party where the face of the youth league is a young man and where the face of the women league is a senior woman. So you're going to the youth league, you're discussing issues pertaining young women. You're like, oh, no. Those issues, take them to the women league. You go to the women league, you're talking about, oh, we need to look at these particular issues because they particularly affect younger politicians and especially younger women. Oh, no. I think you need to go and take those issues to the youth league. So you find that, as a young female politician, you'll face double marginalization, even within the political parties themselves. And you'll find that even within the political party structures, it's very, very hard to find young people occupying very key positions, and very key decision-making position. But despite all that, I was just frustrated with the way things work in my community. And for me, running for political office presented a very good opportunity to be able to move the needle to some of the things that I saw were not going well, whether it's the healthcare situation in my community, whether it's the high crime rate, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's the care work, the care burden that I would see in the community that is actually preventing women from spending enough time to, on personal development, spending enough time in their businesses, and wondering, why don't we even discuss care centers in our own community? Why is it not an agenda? It's gender-based violence, it's femicide. We don't even discuss safety that much when it comes to even the political manifestos that we see. And it's really, really makes me mad because, we have leaders who will campaign on everything else except safety for women. They'll campaign on everything else except ending gender-based violence. I always analyze political manifestos and I say, I'm yet to come across a political manifesto that is looking at ending gender-based violence. That is one of my rallying call. And never mind, half of your campaigners, half of your voters are women. So I am just a frustrated, active citizen that was seeking to contribute to the change that is needed in my community, and that's why I threw myself in the race. It came with a lot of challenges as well at a personal level, because I had a scholarship that I lost. At the time, I had just joined campus. I was in my first year. And I think for me, I knew the stakes are high because I had already stayed out for 2 good years. Wow. So I'm joining campus at 21 when people join campus when they're 19. Because for the 2 years, I was trying to fundraise for my family and well-wishers. And then here you are, you want to throw yourself in the ring, and then you lose the scholarship. You think about the violence that you face. My story is out there. I've been stripped in a political rally, reported the case. The case didn't go anywhere. In fact, I remember one time I sat down and I was trying to figure out, how do I deal with this case of political violence? And I remember a certain male politician telling me that the problem was because I don't know how to show my capacity for violence. And I said, I can't respond with violence, And that just shows you how we have normalized violence in political spaces. And that's why even many a times you'll find even political parties do not have sexual harassment policies. So even if you're harassed within the political party, or you're harassed with a member that you're with within the same political party, there are no structures for addressing that particular matter. But it just shows you that normalization is also one of the biggest barriers in terms of why we don't engage meaningfully in politics.
Since you've already pointed out some of the barriers that women face, especially for marginalized and diverse identities and backgrounds, let's now shift into the strategies or interventions that you've personally seen in your context, in your work, in your even personal experiences as a politician, for example, the ones that you saw working, and what more can we continue doing in support of that? So what strategies are already working? Where do we need to do more of?
First of all, I want to say that we have great men and women who've gone ahead of us. And I always like acknowledging the fact that we stand on the shoulders of great matriarchs, especially, who might not have gotten enough credit for the work that they have done, who even during the liberation movement, they played a very huge role. But of course, you'll find the credit will go to the men. But they've done so much to pave the way for most of us who stepping into their shoes currently. And so I want to acknowledge that, I always say that I can't imagine how things were fighting for, right to protest when we didn't even have a constitution before 2010. Right now, like anytime we go to the street, we're just like, oh, it's my right to protest. You're always quoting the constitution. But imagine before 2010, you couldn't quote most of these things, you see. And so that's why I want to acknowledge the people who even fought for our own constitution, because then that is the foundation upon which we stand on to fight for this right. So I just want to acknowledge that. And also say that when I lost the election and after a year, I got the opportunity to go back to school. My mom's brother supported my education and I was able to go back to campus. and finish my degree. And he also supported my campaigns, and I really want to acknowledge him for that. Because not many people support you when you're young, especially when you're 22. So I really want to also appreciate my Uncle Rogers for that. So when I went back to campus, I began taking stock of things that I saw during the campaign and things that we could improve on, including gaps. And one thing I did see is the fact that during political rallies, I rarely saw women, and especially younger women. Another thing that I did notice is even when you look at social media platforms, you'll rarely see younger women comment on political issues. And it's so interesting because I also follow some top political leaders and influencers, and sometimes I just go to the comments to see who's commenting, and you'll rarely even find younger women, sharing their opinion. And I mean, it could be for different reasons, one including the cyberbullying and trolling. But it shows you the level of engagement of women in politics, both online and offline. And so at campus level, when I went back to school, we began hosting like democracy dialogues. And then we realized we're hosting democracy dialogues, but the people who are coming to our sessions, younger women, yes, but they're the ones who are doing political science or they're doing international relations. And we're very curious, why can't we have women who are doing engineering come to our session? Why can't we have hotel management students? What is this thing where we always assume that the fight for inclusion, for a democracy that functions well, is a preserve of people who work in civil society spaces, And so we changed strategy. We began having glam sessions. So anytime you come to our civic dialogue, you get a free makeover. All of a sudden, we started seeing, very diverse younger people coming to our session, So sometimes they would come to our session because we have one of the top makeup artists glamming people. And they'd be like, oh, I want this look. And while they are queuing, there's someone talking to them about governance, about politics, whether they are voting or not. And when they finish, they're just ushered into the session. They're like, okay, sounds like this is going to be a very fantastic session, And all of a sudden we realized, you know what? We haven't expanded the spaces where we invite everyone to be part of this fight, to be part of this fight, whether we're talking about gender equality, inclusion, justice, upholding human rights, So we began seeing engineering students who are doing architectural science. And for most of them, it was their very, very first time to be invited to a civic space. They didn't even know they belong there. And I'm saying that to say that we are going to have to be very intentional to look at who are we leaving behind. The work of building a critical mass is tiresome, but it is needed. It is needed especially because when you look at the median age in the African continent, it's 20. Yeah, that's the median age. It means the average age is 20 years. But then when you look at the median age of a politician in the African continent, statistics say it's 63. That's a difference of 40 years. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so again, the bulk of the citizens in the African continent are below 20, but they also represent 60%. But of the 60% representation of young people, the bulk of that number is younger women. And that is why, for me, statistics like young women represent less than 1% in politics. For me, it is sad because most of the challenges we deal with disproportionately also affect younger women. Talk about femicide. Majority of the young women who are being killed are either in universities or they're in the communities, marginalized, come from poor communities, even, wealthy communities, but majority of them are younger, are young women who are being killed, When you look at early pregnancy, when you look at early marriages, when you look at sex trafficking, who are being trafficked the most? It's young girls and young women. You see what I mean? So that's why I'm saying it's very, very important to track who we are leaving behind. And that's why for us, we're intentional in terms of building a critical mass of not only young women who can run for office, but also young women who can be strategists, young women who can be digital influencers, young women who can be community influencers, you know, young women who understand how the ecosystem works, because all of us cannot run for office,
For
you know.
office,
And the
true.
conversations we've been having today morning is how do we strengthen that infrastructure? And I'll just briefly say that at 22, I didn't even have the social capital that I have right now. Right now, I know you, but I'm in my, you know, right now I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
You see,
Yeah.
the people I know right now, I did not know any of them when I was 22. So even when you're thinking about, you know, building and strengthening your ecosystem, many a times it should just be your friends. You know, you find you have very limited experience. Your pool of friends, you know, either they are hustling or they're in campus. They can't even fund your, you know, they can't even fund your campaign. Those ones who can be digital influencers are not even on those particular platforms. They're not even commenting on political issues. You see, so it's very, very important to always trace who we're leaving behind.
Okay.
And then maybe my other two additions would be, one thing I also did notice when I was running for office was how the women's informal cooperatives, the chamas that we are very popularly known to work with as Badili Africa, it was quite interesting seeing how they quickly become political networks during elections, how many politicians will enter the communities through these women networks, through these informal cooperatives, and quickly turn them into political networks for their campaign. But then you see, us not being able to tap into that particular space to set our agenda also has been a space that has been overlooked and ignored for such a long time. And it's important for us to right now figure out how do we come together and how do we leverage that particular space. Yeah.
So gender-based violence as a topic and femicide, and we've seen how prevalent it is back home in Kenya. And especially in the past 2 years, the campaigns, the total shutdown KE and the likes, they've become a large part of this year's G20 summit in Johannesburg. And I'm curious to understand from your standing point as Badili Africa founder, in the work that you do in your context, how can African women show solidarity? How do we hold space for gender-based violence survivors? And maybe we could touch also more on some of the ways you and your colleagues, for instance, you've been able to work towards eradicating GBV and the likes. Yeah.
I think for me, I want to say that, first of all, believe survivors. You know, we always question survivors on every front. You know, where were you? Of course. What were you wearing?
That part.
Of course. Who were they with? You see, believe survivors. Yeah. And I'm saying that because I always see even how we report on matters, gender-based violence, and that grieves my heart. It grieves my heart because even the way we talk about gender-based violence, it always places the burden on the victim. And I'll give you a very clear example. So there's a time I was watching our news, and it said that in a particular county, we had 3,000 teenage mothers. And for me, that was a very alarming statistic. Because for me, the moment I saw that, I was just like, oh my goodness, we have 3,000 rapists. That's exactly it. It's not 3,000, you know, it's 3,000 rapists. But because they said 3,000 teenage mothers, the conversation after that on that particular panel was, what can we do? Oh, you know, parents are not spending enough time at home with their children, their church, you know, we are currently morally corrupt. You see, everything else except that we have 3,000 rapists in this county. Now, imagine if the framing was, we have 3,000 perpetrators or rapists in this county. You know, first of all, you'd be so shocked. And the first thing is, oh my goodness, does it mean that even when you're in public transport, you'd be like, anyone next to me is a potential perpetrator? Because you know how you feel when you're just thinking that I live in a county or in a constituency where we have 3,000 perpetrators? Then the question would have been, why are we seeing such a spike in the number of perpetrators? Why don't we have them held accountable as perpetrators? How did we get there as perpetrators? What is it about these perpetrators, that they feel they have to assert their dominance this way, either through rape or through violence or through whichever means. That is what the conversation would have been. But because we reported it through the lens of the victim, yeah, so now we place the burden on either the caregivers of the, of the survivors, or we place the burden on the survivors. And sometimes it's even how we humanize the perpetrator. Again, I saw the story about the lady who was a medical student, a sixth year in campus, but that is in Kenya. And I saw the quote-unquote boyfriend moved all the way from Thika with, was it a panga or an axe in the bag?
It was an axe. I remember that story.
Remember that story?
Yeah.
In his bag, and went all the way. Was it to Eldoret?
It was in broad daylight.
In broad daylight, waited for this young woman to finish her rounds in the hospital where she was doing her rounds, then hacked her. Okay? But how that story was reported was a young woman hacked to death, XYZ.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she was not hacked to death by an invisible force. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Many a times you find that the perpetrators play a very passive role in the stories that we tell, and not an active role in the stories that we tell. And telling that story is saying, young man kills young woman. So, you must start with the,
with the perpetrator.
With the perpetrator.
Yeah, agreed.
But after 3 days, there was a radio story that said that this young man was a teetotaler, And so I was wondering, how does a perpetrator or a rapist look like? How do they look like? Because if you tell me that, this guy always goes to church every Sunday, so does it mean we don't have people who can do that in church, or people who don't take alcohol can't actually commit such a crime? So how our stories humanize these perpetrators also diminishes, the support that we need to give to survivors, but also how we discuss issues of femicide, issues of gender-based violence. So I would like to say that we have to believe survivors. We have to name the thing, name the issue, name the matter, because that way we don't start feeling like, oh my goodness, as a young woman, if I dress this way, I can't go to this street because something will happen to me. Or I can't use public transport because of how I look. Or I have to be home early, because if I'm not home early and something happens to me, guys will ask, what time was I at home? And I think I also just want to say that in terms of the cases that are presented before our courts, in terms of how we preserve evidence, in terms of even how we receive that particular evidence, it's important to really journey with the survivors throughout that particular process and push that these cases are done and closed in good time. Because, I keep on reading in the newspapers of cases that have lagged for 13 years. And I'm like, this thing happened in 2013, but the verdict is being given in 2025. That is insane. Like, that person was just a young girl then. Now they're even a young adult. Is when you're giving the verdict. Imagine the trauma they have lived with over time.
You've reminded me of something that recently was being launched in Namibia. There was a petition around publicizing the National Sexual Offenders Registry.
It's important.
Yes. I don't know, from your standing point, it will be very good to also get your input around that. If we were to have the same, maybe in Kenya, for instance, or even across Africa, what would that look like from a survivor's point of view, or by centering a survivor's story from that lens?
I think that's important.
Yes, very.
And I'm saying that because there was a time I read a story in our newspaper that there were allegations of some teachers on sexual harassment. And I remember the head of Teacher Service Commission saying that they have suspended, like the teachers who allegedly accused of sexual harassment, And for me, I remember thinking, I mean, you can suspend them, but they're going to go and work in private institutions. So what does that mean? Because you see, like in the US, when you are in that list of offenders, you see, number one, it strips you of opportunities when it comes to places where you can work. So you can't even work in a school. You can't work in centers that deal with children. There's economic opportunities that you're stripped of. You see, so even if you were a teacher before, you can no longer go back and work there. And then when you move from state X to state Z, you have to declare that you have moved to another state, because if there's a case of sexual assault and you did not report or declare that you have moved to that place, you're also one of the suspects because it is known that you are an offender. You see what I mean? So that alone can contribute to deterring many more of those cases happening. So for me, I would support the move 100%. Yeah.
It's been amazing just to hear about your perspectives, the great insights that also come from Badili Africa, your personal experiences and stories. But what does democracy look like or mean to you?
Democracy means so many things to me. But for today, I want to say, for me, democracy, for me today, is about inclusion. You cannot talk about democracy if you are not including half of the population that is made up of women in all their diversity on the table, on the decision-making tables. You can't. It doesn't work. When we don't have this representation, when it comes to diversity, it has a very big impact on the quality of the policies that we make. It has a very big impact on, the quality of how our budgets are going to be spent, the priorities of those budgets. And so for me, you can't leave half the population behind and you say you are democratic. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
So number one, I think, like I said, is we have to bring everyone on the table. I think I was in a panel this morning and I did say that I have been following up a case in the community of a child who was defiled and a top boss was compromised, and we couldn't get her contacts. And even when we used our connections to get her contacts, we still couldn't access her. And for me, it took sharing that story in a session where we always, convene women in salons in what we call transformative gossip. We're always saying we are changing the gossip in the salon. We're not stopping you from gossiping, but we are just shaping that gossip. And it took, sharing about collective action with women in salon for one of them to tell me, I didn't know you were looking for this lady because she's my client. And I can talk to her about that particular case, for me to realize that, you know what? Influence is not only in boardrooms, in workshops, or in parliaments, or in county assembly. Influence is in our everyday organizing spaces in the community. And we have to recognize that and be able to partner with people who don't look like us, talk like us, think like us, you see, so that we can all be on the same table saying we need to achieve this together. Like the causes we are pushing for currently, it will take all of us in our diversity. It will take all of us being active citizens. I always say that the most powerful and important office is not the office of the president, the senator, the member of parliament, the member of county assembly, or woman representative. the most powerful and important office is the office of the citizen. And all of us must occupy that particular office. So if you're in the salon, organize. If you're in the digital space, organize. I always say, talk about your agenda in the digital space. Majority of us have these phones. But even if you're on TikTok, how are you using your TikTok platform to push for a particular cause? You see what I mean? Because even for most younger people, before you introduce your candidature to the people in the community, the most low cost the cost effective platform is social media. That's why you're able to go in and introduce your candidature and say, this is what I want. When you see even the example I was giving earlier, your political leader has said, what are the challenges in this constituency? Comment. You see what I mean? Post-COVID, I think our leaders became more active on a digital platform. I mean, it's rare to find a politician is not on any digital.
It's been awesome having you, Bina. And we're looking forward to engaging with you as we continue this conversation, even beyond G20. Here at the Colmena Fan Africa convening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And you guys are doing amazing work at Colmena. The future is in building political pipelines. Thank you.
Photo with the guests.
And one is talking about, what about daycare centers for our women? Because women spend so much time. Women spend 4 hours taking care of their children. They could use this time and spend it in their businesses. They have to close their businesses to go and pick children from school. Then they have to close their business after work to go cook for the children. So what about we reduce this burden and free women's time? You'll rarely see anyone commenting just on a social media post. That alone could flip things in terms of how we engage. So I see also just the digital platform, depending on how we use it, as an opportunity for us to engage on those platforms to spread our agenda, but also to organize and invite many more people in who need to understand that these issues that we discuss are not a preserve of activists, human rights defenders, and people who work in civil society. All of us should care about these issues. So when you see us even working with makeup artists to give free makeovers if you attend our civic dialogue, it's because everyone needs to come on board. Because we don't have, we have the numbers, but we are not as organized as we need to be to take over. They always say that the organized minority will beat or outdo the disorganized majority at any given time. You see, and we're the majority. So we really have to consolidate our numbers. Also now in collaboration, you see, you can't do everything by yourself. You see, so then how can we strengthen our collaboration, either between institutions, peer-to-peer collaboration, intergenerational dialogues, and intergenerational co-leadership? How can we lead together? You're not going to wish away all the senior politicians. You're not going to wish away all the older leaders. But then there's still an opportunity in working with senior progressive leaders, in working with the senior political leaders who are progressive, and there's something to learn from them. I think in the morning, Brian was talking about the experiences of the older activists, the older political leaders. There's something to still learn from them. So then how do we create these spaces that can allow for that level of cross-pollination?
It's been awesome having you here and also having you share your voice and your great, rich perspectives. Without saying so much, it's been awesome having you, Bina. And we're looking forward to engaging with you as we continue this conversation, even beyond G20. Here at the Colmena Fan Africa convening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And you guys are doing amazing work at Colmena. The future is in building political pipelines. Thank you.
Resist,
Persist, and reimagine.
We've reached the end of our episode. We are thankful to our guest and our host Lillian Boothie for this insightful conversation about the present and future of politics for African women. If you like this episode, please don't hesitate to listen to the full series of Resist, Persist, and Reimagine, a new era for African women's political power, available on your favorite audio platform. Don't forget to share and comment on this episode. You can follow Colmena Fund's work on social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Until next time. Resist,
Persist, and reimagine.
a new era for African women's
Political power.